Okay, here's just a very brief and not very informative, to be honest, update on what's going on with the diet here. My target is March to be in really good shape, early March, as you know. And it is first of the year. Tonight's New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's, everybody. Be safe, be prudent, be wise, be, huh? Charge your camera. Make sure your camera's charged. Oh, you're being like Frankie McDonald. Right, make sure your batteries, you charge your cell phones, charge your cameras, charge, who knows. And what? So you take lots of pictures, right? New Year's Eve, Happy New Year. Remember, all things in moderation. Um, anyway, as you know, I started the diet much earlier, a couple months ago. I was coming down like really quickly. I was able to come down too quickly, actually. And being that I'm dealing with the liability of the shoulder injury, the slap tear, which was over a year ago now, but it's still affecting me and holding me back. And as the lighting's bad over here. But as this is, I decided to switch gears and regain some size and start the diet later, which I think was a wise move to make, because as you can see, I have improved, been able to put a little more thickness on my chest, which was very important because when dealing with this shoulder injury, it's made progress, leaps and bounds, but come on, it was a debilitating injury. So when I'm unable to put that pressure on, I can't really push, that's compromised, then of course it's going to compromise, my chest progress, my chest development. But upper chest is coming in really nice, and time well spent anyway. I think I put on some more thickness, more size, brought my legs up more. And now beginning tomorrow, and then every 2 weeks afterwards, tomorrow's going to be the first one. I'm going to strip down. George is going to do my body fat percentage measurements, going to weigh in, going to record all that on camera and put it into a video. And that way you'll be able to see the relatively shitty condition I'm in right now versus the much more drastic, improved condition I will hopefully achieve in March, which I will. Let's keep it real. I'll do whatever I got to do. And by that I mean, if I got to do cardio day and night, I'll do that. Because that's how I do it. I do it with cardio and I do it with dietary thermogenesis, right? So having started later, not as much time, I'll rely equally on both to bring me in. And that's what I do. And you'll see when I get there, I'll be very hard, be vascular, all that shit. And somebody asked me to do a video on what I do last week out to get into shape. And what I do is very boring. I do almost nothing. I carb cycle, typically. That's what I do. I carb cycle. I'm not the only guy that does that. Lee Priest does it. I carb cycle, and I'll have, depending on the shape that I'm in, because the diet has to remain fluid. You have to have the ability to bob and weave and respond to the feedback your body's giving you. You're not stuck in some groove on a piece of paper, that this is what I'm going to do. No. Because if this isn't working, or if this stops working, then you've got to be able to, account for that, make changes, switch up on the go, on the move, and get things working again, moving in the direction you're trying to go. So that's how I diet. And usually I'll carb cycle. And when I get near the end, I don't cut water. I think the most hazardous thing you can do is run your kidneys dry. So no diuretics. Other than caffeine, no diuretics. Run the kidneys dry, maybe eat a lot of asparagus. I'll drink like a lot more water. And, I'm a big caffeine advocate. I like caffeine when I'm dieting down. You got to do something, right? I do that. But as far as anything else, all the typical things that people do, I don't do. But again, that's why I was not going to be, it's definitely a big factor why I was not going to be a threat, to anybody ever in pro ranks, because it's a fucking huge limitation of what I'm willing to put my body through. And I think that's like the fucking huge no-no, is running your kidneys dry. No. And I'll look plenty crazy looking, by the Arnold for the expo. And it won't be anything hazardous, and it won't be anything that made me feel sick. And In fact, I'll feel better than I do today because I'll be in better cardiovascular shape. I'll be leaner, won't carry as much body fat, and it'll actually be healthy. So that's how I do it. How everybody else does it, man. Not putting them down. Of course, I'm not going to look like they look. I'm not going to be as big as they get today. I'm not going to be as hard and as dry as they get today. But for me, it's not necessary. And as you'll see, average guy on the street, I'm still going to look like extreme, over the top. And of course, there'll be people that look at that and say, oh, he's doing this, this. No, there'll even be pros that'll look at it and say, oh, well, that guy, what do I think he's on? He's this. No. If I was on all that, I would be much, much bigger. It's just like now, people look at me and say, oh, there's no way on that low amount of tests that you can be that big. Tell it to my body. I've been much, much bigger. See, the factor people don't realize is that I'm not caught up in that. I don't need to be the biggest guy. I don't need to be as big as I could even be. I just want to be maybe as big and as drastic as I can be doing this, and this, but not doing any of this over here. You understand the difference? When I've been bigger, so, right now my arms are like pushing 22s, but they've been pushing 24. What is that? Maybe they were an inch and a quarter bigger at one time. And look at all I was doing to be that little bit bigger. Yeah, overall everything else was thicker, a lot denser, but I wasn't dealing with a shoulder injury. I didn't have all these other things to account for, to train around or through. And I was doing a lot of different things when I was 300 pounds. So, if I was one of these guys that had to be as big as I could be, had to be, I would be 300 pounds because I have no trouble gaining muscle. I never have had any trouble gaining muscle. It's why I did what I did, period. It's never been like that dire. It's never been like, I've got to get bigger. I got to get huge. No, it's just, I was one of those guys that it was pretty easy. So I just said, let me try a little more and see what happens. Or let me, eat a little more and see what happens. Or let me, make it a little bigger of a priority and see what happens. And then it got to the point where I said, okay, I'm going to try and turn pro and compete with these guys. What am I going to do? I guess I'm going to step it up. So I did step it up. But still, I'm not going to do any of this shit over here. So that was what I looked like, with all that. And then I still wasn't the be-all, end-all of my world. So that's one of the big factors, too. You got to really, really want it. And I didn't really, really want it that bad. To be honest, let's be real. Really didn't. So half-assed effort, limiting myself to what I'm willing to do, that's what I look like. Simple as that. So it's not important to me. I mean, it's like my last showing looked like shit. And it was the most visible show I ever did. So a lot of guys would be like, I can't live with that. I got to come back and redeem myself. And no, not me. I don't care. Don't care. That's why when people, think everybody lies, they all lie, all these YouTube people lie. Well, no, I don't, because I don't really care. I don't care enough to lie. I don't care enough to lie to anybody. Why do I give a fuck? Don't care enough to lie. I mean, clearly. Didn't really care enough to be, one of these huge monsters shredded on stage. I just wanted to see the best I could be doing this. Right? So that's scaled back even. So today, at 54 years of age, I like lifting more than anything else. So it's like, let me see what I can do, how far I can go with what I'm doing. And I'm not stepping it up. I'm not changing anything. The only thing I've stepped up is the intensity in the gym, frequency of the workouts, tighten down on the diet, put cardio in there. That's it. I haven't added anything. I haven't turned anything up, like that. No, not all the things people want to attribute. Nope. So when people say, he's got to be lying because he wants to look better. Look better to who? Sound better to who? To people I don't even know? To people, busters, that I already don't have any respect for? Fuck no. When you guys are my family, I'm honest with you. I'm not putting the videos up here for these fucking knuckleheads that come by. They come by. Do I care how many of them I impress? Who the fuck are they? Of course I don't. Of course I do not. So, simple as that. Have been bigger, can be bigger. Don't care to, because like I said, I'm only going to do this much. So this is what I look like at that. So how good can I look at this? The biggest factor that's going to limit to how good I can look in March is actually my commitment, my level of commitment to, the diet, the cardio. That's all. How important is it to me? It's not that important. It's kind of fun. If it stops being fun, I'll start eating ice cream and cake again. As simple as that. I'm going to keep it real. All right, anyway, that's it. That's where we are. Tomorrow we'll do the, at Retro again, Georgie's going to mic me up and weigh me, and we're going to do that every 2 weeks. And the first time one of these events occurs that I haven't made the progress I need to make or begins to diminish, then I switch it up, and I'll show you how I do that. I start to change things. All right, that's it. I'll be back. Got to get to the grocery store. I would take you guys with me, but people up here like the privacy. I'm not sure people want to have a camera all floating around out in public places like that necessarily. All right, take care. Have an awesome day.